Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar, An Introduction to Creating a Library Marketing Plan. I'm Jamie Matczak. I'm a consultant for the Wisconsin Valley Library Service. Thank you for joining us for today's presentation. I'm here with Mark Ibach, also a consultant from the South Central Library System, and Kathy Dempsey. And we also have Jean Anderson from South Central moderating questions. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. How did all of this start? I'm going to give you a little history behind that. In the summer of 2018, a marketing cohort was formed among public library system consultants. And these were folks who have a pretty significant focus in marketing and communications in their system role. And we wanted a way for us to share, for us to exchange ideas, to work on projects, etc. So this is actually our first major project, creating this marketing plan template, and we started this in August of 2019. The main team who worked on this project, or who at least started it, are Mark and myself, Chad Glomman from OWLS, and Lori Bauman from Nicolay. After we developed a draft, we each reached out to one of our system member libraries and sought feedback. Then we sought feedback from the rest of our marketing cohort, and that is Rebecca Kildee, Heather Fisher, Tova Anderson, Jill Fuller, and Brooke Newberry. So why this webinar? What we'd like to do is introduce this marketing plan template to the public library community before we officially roll this out in March 2020. We want to give you a chance to ask any questions you might have. It also gives us a chance to make adjustments to the template if we need to. I also want to point out that there will be a program at the WAPL conference in Oshkosh about this, similar to what we're doing today, on Friday, May 1st at the 9:45 time slot. The room is still to be determined, but the session will be happening. And just like this plan might be the case for you, this template is not a one and done for us. You know, we're not going to just produce this, throw it out there and say, here you go. This is a pilot project. This is, as far as we know, as far as Kathy knows, there isn't a template like this for libraries, even not in Wisconsin and even not out in the country. So once libraries start implementing this template, we'll want to get some feedback, and we might end up adjusting it as needed. So this is not a one and done for us either. So the marketing template that we are talking about today was based on the cycle of true marketing that was developed by Kathy Dempsey. And Kathy lives in New Jersey. She's a library marketing expert, blogger, and award winner. And some of you might have attended her marketing webinar last year for the Wild Wisconsin Winter Web Conference, where she talked about this concept. And we approached her last summer about creating a plan based on her cycle, and she gave us the thumbs up to do this. Many of us tend to jump in and start writing a marketing plan before doing some research and some homework. So she created this cycle to help libraries create a more effective plan. We just so happen to have Kathy here with us today, and we're so glad she's here. She's here to listen in and help us answer questions, and she's going to say a few words right now. So take it away, Kathy.
Thank you so much, Jamie, and to Mark, and thanks to everyone who's here. And I hope that you are as excited about this as me. Maybe not yet, but I hope that you will be at the end. I just wanted to say a couple things to get you kind of warmed up and invested in this idea of writing a marketing plan, because I know that it sounds intimidating to people sometimes. But here's the first thing that most people ask me about. They say, oh, writing a marketing plan, I'm already so busy. I don't have time to do anything else. How am I going to find time to write a marketing plan? Well, I would like to assure you that the time you spend putting your plan together will be repaid to you over and over and over again, because it will save you time down the road. It will save you the time and the heartache of planning a program that you think is really, really great, and then 3 people show up. I think many of us have been in that position, and I am all about helping you avoid being in that position ever again. So creating the marketing plan will save not only time with programming, but with all sorts of other things that now maybe are a little bit disorganized, that are broken up between different groups of people, and maybe one group doesn't always know exactly what the other group is doing. But having a plan, like anything else, puts you all on the same page. Um, Also, I want to assure you that marketing plan, this whole cycle and everything that you're going to hear today, it's very scalable. You can do it as a tiny, tiny little thing. You can do it as a great big thing. But you can start out really small and just kind of get your feet wet, get a little bit of confidence, and then adjust your plan, make it a little bit bigger, better, more effective. It also doesn't have to be super detailed. When I first started doing marketing, I envisioned marketing plans as, 40 pages long with a 3-page executive summary or something. And some people just make them 1 page of a few bullet points. So really, whatever works for your library and your situation, you can make it fit this process. One other great thing about having a marketing plan, which, by the way, let me also assure you that most libraries don't have one. I talk to a lot of marketing librarians, and I get a lot more of, well, we know we should and we want to. I hear a lot more of that than, yes, we have a marketing plan. So please don't feel like you're behind. Don't feel like you don't have the knowledge or the time that it takes to do this. So the great thing is, just like having policies, when you have written policies for your library and someone comes up and says, well, why is it not this way? Why doesn't it work the way I want it to work? You can fall back and say, well, we have a policy that we've created over time with a lot of input, and this is why. And you can do the same with marketing. When perhaps someone says to you, why didn't my idea get posted on our social media? Or why didn't you make big flyers for my events the way you did for someone else's? You can fall back on your marketing plan and say, well, this is a level 1 event, and that means that we're doing posters, flyers, social media, everything. And this is a level 2 event, which means we're just posting on social, or however you get yourself organized. So overall, I just really want to assure you that this is going to be a really, really good thing for you. In the end, it will save you time. It could save you money. It should guide you to which sorts of programs and which type of people that you need to address in order to build more support for your library, more awareness, and it can even help with your funding. So I really hope that you will enjoy this webinar and learning about the cycle of true marketing and how you can make it work for you. And anytime, if you have any questions, you can always get back to me or Jamie or Mark, of course. And thank you very much for being interested in marketing. And I wish you all the best luck in the world.
Thank you so much, Kathy. And I'm really glad you said that a marketing plan doesn't have to be 40 pages, because we created a sample plan and it is nowhere near 40 pages. So thank you for saying that. Okay, what are we going to cover today? So we're going to give a little bit of an introduction to the plan, which we've been doing. We're going to walk through the steps of the plan. We're going to show you the actual template. It's a Google Doc to give you an idea of what it looks like. And you're going to see a lot of text. You might not have time to read all of it or process all of it, and that is okay. Again, this is just an introduction to the template, and that's why we have the handout. So if you want to jot down some notes for each cycle, you can do that. We're actually going to share a sample marketing plan. We created a made-up library and created a plan based on that library, based on this cycle. We're also going to share a marketing and calendar a marketing and budget calendar. We're going to pause several times throughout the presentation and take any questions at that time. If we don't get to your question today, Mark and I are happy to take questions by email or phone. And then again, I just want to mention that the handout is in your control panel if you want to download or take notes on that. And now I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Mark.
All right, thank you, Jamie. An ongoing challenge for public libraries is finding effective ways to promote what you do. Developing a comprehensive marketing plan is really a great starting point because it helps focus your marketing efforts to ensure that you use your limited resources both effectively and efficiently. The tools used in your marketing, in your library marketing, are really not as important as the message you send. People need to know more than what products and services you offer and how to access them. They need to hear why the library is still important and valuable to your community, and how the library is striving every day to address the needs and wants of the community. It's important to remember that when we're talking about this marketing template, it is not a marketing campaign. It is not a one-day project. You're not going to sit down on a Saturday with your board and do this, nor is it a one and done. Jamie talked about that. Really think of this as a living document that you will modify over time to continually meet your needs, and that process will get easier and easier the more you do it. This marketing plan template provides you with a process for the creation of your unique plan. So what will you find in the plan template? Well, you're going to find a framework for you to follow and adjust. This framework is adjustable to suit your unique needs, both of your library and your community. You're also going to find a sample marketing plan that will show you what a plan might look like when you're done. There's a budget document that gives you examples of how you can, ideas of things you can track and how you might track your budgetary expenditures, and a calendar that helps you serve as a guideline to know when would you do certain things related to your plan. There will also be at some point links to resources that expand on the information presented. I'm not sure if they're all there yet, but there will be more than there are now. What you won't find in this plan template is language and descriptions that contain lots of marketing jargon and lingo. We've really tried to be careful and not include that in here. There will also not be an exhaustive overview of promotional tools and media that you can use in your marketing plan, because that's really not what this part is about. This is more about planning for what you're going to promote, how you're going to do it. We also recognize, as we sat down and talked about this, so this is one of the things that came about very quickly, was that not all libraries can manage the same complexity of plan. So this template really often addresses 3 levels or steps of commitment. What you choose for each step really depends on your level of experience, comfort, time, and funding. This is really where the plan is adaptable to what you need to do or what you're able to do. So throughout the plan, you're going to see sometimes a basic step listed. The basic step really is the baseline. And it's something that your library would do to complete this plan. It's really meant to be doable for any library of any size, or if your library has never completed a marketing plan, if you're just not comfortable doing something beyond that. At the intermediate level, this is obviously the next level of practice and the plan. This might require more resources and staff time. And finally, the advanced, this is the final level, and really its focus is more on the addition of more resources. It might require a dedicated staff or team to successfully implement the plan. So the key here is that you get to pick and choose which of those works for you. Now I'm going to give it back to Jamie. Jamie's going to start to talk about researching your audience.
Jamie, we're not hearing you.
You, of course not, because I didn't unmute myself. So thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
We're going to go ahead and look at the template, but before we do that, we're going to look at the actual, the sample marketing plan that we created. And we're going to come back to this, but I want to show this to you now because I want you to see, as Kathy said, your plan does not have to be 40 pages. The sample plan that we created is not even 5 pages. And your plan could be 5 pages. Your plan might only be 3 or 4. As Kathy said, 1 page. So this is just a snapshot of what it looks like. And again, we'll come back to this in just a bit. So let's start with that first step. Again, we're going to reference the cycle of true marketing, which again, you have that handout and the control panel that you can download if you like. We're going to start with the first step of researching your audience. Okay, so this is your first step in the plan. The basic idea here is that you want to find out what your community likes. You want to find out what they don't like, and if they're even using the library. You're going to gather some basic demographics. If you're a small library and don't have a lot of money or time, your basic step here is gathering some research. Sorry, that's my dog. There's probably a Amazon drop off. If you want to go a little farther, maybe you do a survey. And a step further than that would be a focus group. So you're going to do what you have the time to do and what you are most comfortable with. Okay. Mark is now going to talk about our next step in the cycle.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. So once you've identified your audiences, it's really time to start thinking about segmenting those audiences further. Remember that the public library audience is already somewhat segmented. You likely have a children's area and you have programming for children. You have a teens area, teen programming and resources, adult services area, programming resources. So you've already done, you already recognize that there are different needs, but you need to further segment these audiences. So think of the different needs of a 3-year-old compared to a 10-year-old. By narrowing your audiences, you can better understand what kind of language to use with each segment of each audience, and you need to further identify those potential audiences so you can target more specifically the messages, the tools, and which programs and resources you should be talking about with each. In this particular case, with the segmenting the target markets, we really didn't identify any intermediate or advanced levels or steps. So at the basic level, based on your research, what we're recommending is you try to identify 3 to 5 target audiences to be the subject of your marketing plan. Focusing on those target audiences should address the needs of those audiences and the needs of your community. Going with more than 3 to 5 may just make your plan too big and too unwieldy for you to really focus your efforts. So that's the recommendation, is to really 3 to 5 target audiences. And I'm going to give it back to Jamie, who's going to talk more about your targets and what they want and need.
Okay, thanks, Mark. So, okay, now we know a little bit about our community. We've done some research. We've done the segments. We've segmented them into the 3 to 5 groups. What do they need? What do they want? We're going to ask them. So the basic step here is asking questions of your audience. Maybe you send out an email survey. Maybe you post questions on your library's Facebook page. People love to share their thoughts and opinions on social media, and sometimes more than we want them to, right? So these methods shouldn't cost you any money. More in-depth work, or the intermediate step here, that would be maybe a phone interview or informal meetings with groups of people in your community. You could also use paid social media like Facebook ads, or paid TV, paid radio ads, billboards to survey your audience. And then the advanced step would be to hire somebody or a firm to do the basic and intermediate steps for your library. So we're going to pause now for just a second and see if any questions have come in and take those.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi.
There haven't been any questions coming in yet, and I just put it in the chat, and I'll say it here. If anyone has any questions anytime during the webinar, go ahead and use your questions panel, and I will pass them along to all 3 of our panelists today. So
thank you. All right.
You can go ahead.
Great. We're going to keep going then. Thank you. Okay, the next step in the cycle. Now we have a good idea of our audience. We've segmented them. We have a better idea of what they want and need. Now we can start to identify products and services that our library offers. So are these things that our library already has, but we're not promoting effectively? I think we hesitate, and Kathy mentioned this in her webinar a year ago, that we hesitate to ask this question because we think we have to run out and get all these new books to add to our collection or get all this new tech stuff. And honestly, it could be things that we have and we're just not promoting. So are they things we have and are not promoting? Are they new services that we think our library could or should provide? So you can see a list of possible products and services. Again, this is not an exclusive list. These are just some examples of products and services you might have. So the steps for this part is really about identifying, modifying, and then creating products and services. And Mark is going to talk about the next two steps.
Almost forgot to not turn on my microphone, Jamie. So the next step after you've talked about your products and services is to now think about the competition in your community. And in today's world, people have an increasing number of demands on their time and resources. There are only so many hours in the day. There's only so much stuff that people can consume. So libraries, shouldn't try to do everything for everyone. Instead of competing, we encourage libraries to try to create partnerships in their communities. You aren't just competing for services, but for time. Is the library out of the way for some people? Do they have a difficult time getting there? Or are there some specific barriers to people getting to your library? What other things is the library competing with in your community? Some examples might be the internet in general or streaming services in particular. Could be community events and local entertainment. Could be just retail and business that people go to. There might be, television, sporting events, school functions, and just time. It's really important to identify those points of competition so you can try to address those in your marketing efforts as you promote your products and services. After you've done the work to this point, it's now time to identify your 3 to 5 measurable goals for your products and services. And the thing that's really important to remember at the beginning is that those goals should be quantifiable and measurable. And we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. At the basic level, you might want to use what's called the SMART method to identify goals for your products and services. SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. Examples might be increase Saturday story time attendance by 10% in the next 6 months. Okay, you have to determine it is very specific. It is measurable because you've said 10% in the next 6 months, so you can measure whether you've accomplished that. Is it attainable? Is it, if you said 50% in the next 6 months, that might not be possible. 10% might be. So it is attainable. Is it relevant? Does your story time need a 10% increase in attendance, or is attendance already so high that you don't need to worry about that? And then is it timely? Is it something that you really should be focusing on right now, or are there other things that are more important? So those are the kinds of things you want to be thinking about. Another example might be increase circulation of Spanish language materials by 20% in the next year, or gain 5 new groups to use your meeting space in the next year. Those aren't huge goals, but they may have a real impact on your library, because in all of these cases, what you're talking about is bringing in to the library potentially people who aren't currently library users, and that could drive all kinds of things and have all kinds of positive impacts for your libraries. There will be a link, it's in the document here, and it talks about SMART goals, so you can learn more about it. And at this level with creating your goals, there really are no intermediate or advanced level steps here. Creating your goals is really about you and your staff and your volunteers and your board sitting and talking about what are the things we want to do. I think now we're going to break for more questions.
Everybody is following along nicely. I don't have any questions, but I did just put in there if anyone had any goals to share or if they had any questions about goals. So I will let you know if any come in. Okay, actually a question just came in. So hold on 1 second. The example of your SMART goal is good. What about choosing actions? How do you go about choosing the right actions to meet this goal?
Oh, in terms, are you saying the things that we will do to achieve a 10% increase in the next 6 months?
Yes, I think that's what it means.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I think that will come. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
No, go ahead.
I think that's going to come into play when when you start deciding how you're going to promote these products and services. That might become a little bit more clear once we show our plan.
Yeah, and I think, you know, when you start looking at the documents like the budgeting and your calendars, you know, part of the process is you're going to be figuring out, okay, so, you know, what are we going to do? Are we going to do, you know, posters, flyers, press releases? Are we going to have events at the library to promote this? Are we going to, you know, go out into the community? I mean, those are the kinds of things that, you know, we have the goal now. What do we do around it to drive that? And then, so yes, I think once we show the written plan, it will, I think, become clear what we're talking about.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to continue. So notice that I'm going to scroll up again to our cycle that you have a copy of. We haven't even begun. We've covered these first 6 steps, and this is really kind of our homework. This is a lot of our research. We haven't even started writing the plan yet. The plan comes about halfway through this cycle. So now that we have some of this homework done or this research done, now we can actually start to write the document, write the plan. So in the template, you're going to see where it kind of breaks off. And I'm going to show that on your screen here, where it says, okay, now that you've worked on these steps, you can use it to start writing your plan. And there will be a link to that marketing plan template that I'm going to show. So now is when we can start writing our plan and implementing it, because we've done a lot of the work already. And you can see in these steps, it's faded, the text is faded, and it says this was done in an earlier step. So you've actually done a lot of the work before you start writing the plan. The next step, once we start writing the plan, is to promote our products and services. Promoting means we want to grow these products and services. How do we track this? You also might want to create a simple marketing calendar, and we have a link to a calendar that you can use in your plan. Below are some promotional tools that you might want to consider. Again, this is not an exclusive list. These are just some ideas of things that you want to use to carry out in your plan to accomplish your goals. The next part of the actual plan is your marketing plan budget. So this is an overall picture of what you might spend in staff time and in money. You might not have any money to spend on your budget. You might have a lot, and that's okay. You can do this and track this still with no matter what you have. So for this template, I'm going to show you an Excel spreadsheet where we created a budget for this plan, and this does not include staff time. You don't have to use an Excel spreadsheet. You could use a Word doc. You can use whatever you'd like, but I think by tracking this, you can manage and keep organized what you are spending in money and in staff time. The final piece of the actual plan is to evaluate and assess your goals. How will you determine if you accomplish your goals? And you're gonna articulate this in the plan. You know, we suggest that you list your evaluation date, you list your goal, your measurement, and then your recommended action. And again, I think this might make more sense once you see the actual plan. Again, we show the link to the sample marketing plan. And I'm going to refer to that now. Okay, so on your screen right now, and this will be part of the template, is the amazing Public Libraries marketing plan. You can see that this is a 2-year plan. Your plan might only be the span of a year. It might be the span of 3 years. For this plan, it's a 2-year plan. We have a brief introduction in it where it talks about the demographics in our community, the library mission statement. We also include the vision statement. We talk about some of the strengths of the amazing public library. We talk about how we market. And then we mentioned that a community survey was done and 150 people responded, And these were some of the responses in that survey. So this is some of that research that we did, the first part of the marketing cycle. Now we're identifying in this plan our target audiences. So based on this survey that the Amazing Public Library did, based on ILS data, based on census data, this plan is going to focus on 4 target audiences: families with young children, young adults, people who speak Spanish, and tourists. Then we, in order to better understand the needs, the Amazing Public Library gathered more information through some informal meetings, through questions that they posted on their library's Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. And then they interviewed by phone 25 parents who attended story time. So again, this is just stuff that they did. This is all part of the homework part, and now they're reporting this out in their plan. And with these 3 bullet points, this is what they found. So I'm not going to focus a lot on this data, but they're just reporting out what they found in gathering this information. So the Amazing Public Library decided then to identify 5 main areas, 5 products and services that they want to focus on. And those are space for young adults, story times, and then it gives the reason why. So this is why: story times, parking, hotspots, and materials for Spanish speakers. Next part of the cycle is identifying the competitors. So who might the library be competing with as far as competition in the community? Based on the 5 target audiences and their needs, this library plan contains 5 goals. Your library marketing plan does not have to have 5 goals. It might only have 3 goals. It does not have to have 5. I would not recommend more than 5 goals, however, because you don't want to get too overwhelmed. So these are the 5 goals. And I think they follow that SMART method that Mark just talked about. So this is what we're going to focus on. Okay, so now that we have our 5 goals, this is what we're going to do to achieve those goals. This is what we're going to promote. These are the products and services we're going to promote. We are going to use social media, posters and bookmarks, press releases, community calendar, movie theater ads, and parking signage. It's a mix of free and paid marketing. This is where you could create your calendar. So again, this is what you're going to use to decide when you're going to promote your products and services to achieve your goals. I'm going to show you the calendar now. Again, this is just an example. Your calendar might look different. We happen to create it on an Excel spreadsheet. Here's our first goal. We're going to dedicate and promote a young adult area by June of 2020. So in April and May, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do Instagram posts, school visits, and a press release. In June, we're going to run Instagram posts and then create posters for our rec center. Our second goal is to increase its annual story time by 20%. And this is what we're going to do in June and August. This is what we're going to do in December, in the fall, so on and so forth. So we are specifically listing for each goal, not only the promotional tools, but the timeline. Okay, and this can be, we did this quarterly. You might choose to do this monthly. You might choose to do it weekly, but we did this pretty broadly. Okay, then the budget. The Amazing Public Library is pretty fortunate. They have a budget of $8,000 to be used. Again, your library might not have anything, and that's okay. So along with the template, we included a sample budget for this. So again, here's our goal. We're going to dedicate and promote a young adult area by June of 2020. Here's our time period. We had those time periods, right, on the calendar. We are not going to spend anything on Instagram. We're not going to spend it. And again, this is just money. So the staff time is not included in this. That might be something you want to consider. A press release isn't going to cost us money, but we are going to kick in $500 for posters in the rec center, because the rec center was one of the Amazing Public Library's competitors. For goal number 2, again, we're not going to spend any money, but we are going to spend money on Facebook ads, posters, and we're going to purchase some movie theater ads in the summer, because we're trying to attract families who might be in the theater watching summer movies. And we list the rest of the goals and the timeline, and as you can see, it adds up to $8,000. this is just a sample budget. You could get more detailed. You could get you don't even have to get this detailed. It's entirely up to you. This is a sample. Okay. Then the end of the plan is going to have an evaluation and assessment. We're going to evaluate this plan every 6 months so we can track the progress of our goals and adjust them as they need. So we're saying that in December 1st, we're going to evaluate our first goal, which was dedicating and promoting a young adult area by June of 2020. How are we going to measure this? Well, we should see an increase in usage with the new space, and we're going to distribute surveys in the fall of 2020. And really, for recommended action, we kept this pretty broad. We're gonna recommend further action as we see needed. So we list when we're going to evaluate each goal and what the measurement is going to be. How are we going to know if we achieved our goal of the library increasing awareness of its free parking? Well, we're going to do a follow-up survey, an informal gathering, to measure this goal, to assess if this happened or if we were successful in this. And really, once we do that, this is the end of our marketing plan. It's not the end of the process, but this is the end of the actual written plan. This is something you would work on as a staff. This is something you would share with your board, possibly share with your community, have your website. This is the written part of it. And again, it's not longer than 5 pages. As Kathy said, it doesn't have to be 40 pages long. Okay, with that, I'm going to go back to this part and see if we have any questions before we finish off with the cycle. Jean, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
No, I'm sorry. I was answering a question on in the Elizabeth asks, is a valid method word of mouth? For example, choose 5 key influential people you will tell about the service and ask them to spread the word.
I think so. Kathy, do you want to jump in on that one?
I would love to. Thank you. Word of mouth marketing is definitely something very useful. And having the influencers in your community spread the word for you can be an excellent way to get your point across. However, I just want to make the point that word of mouth marketing doesn't mean calling up, those 5 influential people and say, hey, will you spread the word about this? Okay, thanks, bye. You really want to have a little bit more of a plan for them so they'll take it seriously. But again, that plan can be so small. It can just be, we hope that you, dear influencer, can reach 25 people over the next 3 months. And if it's okay, I'm going to call you back in 3 months and see how many people you talked to and how they felt about it. So that little bit of follow-up helps make them a little bit more accountable, because otherwise it's just so easy for someone to say, oh, sure, I'll help with that, and never really do anything. So
Kathy,
yeah.
I was going to say, when Jean read the question, the first thing that struck me was the question of making that measurable as a tool. So it's, and I think doing what you're saying helps you do that. If you ask someone, will you take this to this civic group or that you're a member of, or to the Chamber of Commerce or whatever, and share these points of information, it becomes a little more of a measurable goal that you can say, yes, we did that, versus, like, say, talk to some people.
Absolutely.
Because you do want it measurable.
And you can even, depending on your influencers and how well you know them, and are they already library champions, you can get a little more detailed with them and say, oh, well, we would love you to make these 3 points to members of your civic organization. So here's a handout that we've created with those 3 points. And, here's a 2-question survey. That's it, does this sound like something you would do, or whatever? So you can definitely work the measurement in. And that's why, this is a good example of why in the cycle, before you get to the point of taking your measurements, back up a few steps and you plan how you're going to take those measurements, because it's so easy to get caught up in the excitement and to say to your influencer friends, oh, could you tell people about that? That'd be really great, thanks. But you haven't thought ahead to how you're going to measure, which would have caused you to maybe create the handouts or make the little follow-up survey or something like that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kathy. Okay, continuing with our cycle, I'm going to pass it on to Mark.
Okay, thank you. So we're gonna talk about some things here now that might sound repetitive, because Jamie talked as part of the plan process, or the plan writing process, evaluation of different parts of the project, and this is different than that. So hers was part of the plan. This first step in this evaluation process really occurs after you've kind of implemented and kind of you're coming to the end of your marketing plan. You really want to evaluate and assess the whole thing, and that's really what this is about, as you're getting ready to start this process over again. So the first step is evaluating and assessing your promotional materials, and evaluating your marketing promotion really helps you improve the ease and effectiveness moving forward, because you're going to know what worked, what didn't, what you might need to tweak. And once this promotion is ended, it's really time to gather the results and start thinking about the next one. Depending on the promotional methods used and your needs, you may use one or more of these 4 methods. And the important thing is to remember that you do not have to use all 4 of these tools to do some evaluation and measurement. You need to use what works for your library. The first might be something as simple as patron responses and reaction. You might do some interviews, those kinds of things. Second would be social media analytics. You might want to be looking at your Twitter feed, your Facebook, Instagram, those kinds of things, and seeing what was the use of it, comments, all those kinds of things. You might want to look at your web analytics and really dive into that, because Google Analytics has a lot of options. And then also you might want to consider email analytics, and that might be something that you can do or not. I mean, that might be something that you need to do more at an advanced level, depending on what tools you have available. So, for example, let's talk about patron response and reaction. Patron responses through a variety of methods can help determine the reception your marketing efforts received. You might use online or printed surveys. Patron feedback with staff and online commentary can quantify the impact of your marketing efforts. So you can kind of get a sense of what impact did it have. Did people see the posters you put up? Did they read the press releases? Did they see the press release in the paper or wherever you put it? At a basic level, you might use face-to-face communication and ask questions like, how did you find out about our program? Or what made you come to this event? Those are very basic things that you can do at point of contact or in interviews. At the intermediate level, you might use an online or printed survey, depending on the patron's preference or aptitude, to rate how they thought event communication was presented. At the advanced level, you might hire a third party or do focus groups to ask questions and or conduct an online or printed survey. For social analytics, you can use the built-in analytics of the social platforms. Most have those things. Key metrics might include things like audience size, likes and followers, for example. They may include reach and impressions, engagement, like clicks, reactions, comments, shares. It's one thing if people come to your Facebook page, but it's another if they're liking things and commenting and sharing, retweeting, posting, those kinds of things. Those are telling you different things about that part of your plan. At the basic level, you just might browse your social media comments, likes, and shares, and just see what is out there. At the intermediate level, you might review performance using your platform's built-in analytics tools. There really is we didn't define an advanced level step here. For web analytics, you want to make sure that your website is set up to measure activity before the promotion begins. You don't want to start partway through it. You want to have it all ready before your promotion begins. Analytics will vary depending on the platform that the website is built upon. Check with your library system or your municipality, depending on who houses your website, to see if analytics are already being tracked or if they can be tweaked to track different things. At the basic and intermediate level, you could set up Google Analytics on the entire web platform. At the very least, it should be set up on the promotions campaign landing page, but a lot of times, once people find something, they'll bookmark it and go directly there. So you may want to have it on all the pages, so every time somebody hits that page, you're going to collect data about that. You can also try using a Google Chrome product app that can give a snapshot of campaign page interaction. One of these is Page Analytics app by Google, and there's a link to that. You can find out more about it. And for the web analytics, we really don't have an advanced step either here. Email analytics. There are a number of paid and free email marketing service providers, things like Constant Contact, MailChimp. At the basic level, you might use email analytics tools to determine whether email was opened or clicked on. At the intermediate or advanced, you can try A/B testing. There is a link here for a 90-second video on YouTube to watch what is A/B testing and how to do it, but that would be a more intermediate or advanced step. Now, the second step in this evaluation process is to study feedback and learn lessons. So once you've gathered data, you want to create an evaluation report and include any key metrics that are relevant to your plan. Measure the outcome against the goals you set earlier in the plan. At the basic level, you might just record numeric data in a spreadsheet, create some charts and summaries, etc. You may already have access to this information in your annual report, such as door counts and other metrics you could use to compare against set goals. At the intermediate level, you might compare your results to the goals that were set earlier. Things like return on investment is a concern for any project with a budget. If you're spending money, you want to find out, was that expenditure worth the cost? Was the return worth the cost? Measure the amount spent on the campaign against the outcome and evaluate if this could have been better or worse. And if you spent a little bit more, would you have gotten a lot more? Could you have spent less and done the same thing? That sort of thing. Advanced, you could create a marketing dashboard to visually communicate performance over a period of time. And that would be another option. The final step in this evaluation process is to improve your steps as necessary. So now that you've studied the feedback, you can brainstorm how things could be done differently. If your performance was excellent and you achieved all your goals, you want to be sure to note why and then repeat it or build on it for the next time. You want to compile information into a recap so you can share it, or a recap or an outline so you can share it with your library board, your library director, other library supporters who may be interested in this work. And at this point, you've created a solid foundation for your library's ongoing marketing efforts. You've come to the end of the cycle and you're ready to start over again. In conclusion, when we're thinking about a library marketing plan, it's really important to remember that it really should define specific messages and phrases that you use repeatedly in the materials you create and that you disseminate within your community. Regardless of the message or target audiences, these scripted messages should really be repeated frequently to all audiences. The tools you're going to use to promote your library will vary based on the audience and where they turn for that information. Knowing who you're talking to and where they get their information will really enhance your marketing efforts and result in more robust usage of the products and services that you're trying to promote. The key is to wisely target your efforts. Your library's marketing plan and the process of writing the plan should be manageable and unique to the needs of your library and community. And that's really the focus of our efforts to create this template. So as we conclude here today, just a couple of reminders. This plan will be rolling out in March of 2020. We'll be sharing all of this information with public library systems. You'll see it promoted on WISPAblib, so please keep a look for that. Encourage you, if you're attending WAPL, to step into the May 1st session at 9:45. be a good opportunity to hear more, to ask questions, to talk to libraries that may be doing marketing plans or maybe starting to work with this one. And finally, feel free to contact Jamie or me if you have any questions about any of this. You know, if a week from now you think of something, please feel free to reach out and either call or email. Either one's fine. Any questions?
I do want to note too that what did I want to note? Oh, at the end of the webinar today, there will be a short survey. So that feedback is important. So if you don't have a question right now, that will also be a chance for you to ask a question or something that maybe you don't understand, and that will be helpful to us as we're tweaking this and before we roll this out next month. You know, if about 10 of you ask the same question or are confused on something, then maybe we need to clarify something in a section or make some slight adjustments. So this isn't your only time to ask questions. And as we mentioned at the beginning, this is a pilot project for us. This is by no means something perfect and a final product. It's something that we felt was important to undertake because, as Kathy said, there aren't a lot of libraries that produce or carry out a marketing plan. You know, even if you Google or do research on library marketing plans, you find some, and they're all different, and I think they're all valuable. And that was one of the reasons we wanted to create a sample plan based on this cycle, because we believe in this cycle. We feel strongly about it. It makes sense to us, and we feel that it really could be successful. And once you put the elbow grease in, relatively easy to follow. If you're thinking of so you might be thinking a timeline. You know, let's say you decide to carry out a plan for, you're going to use a marketing plan for a year. Okay. You might want to then schedule maybe 3 to 6 months ahead of that to actually implement the actual plan, to do your research and write the plan. Maybe you need a little longer. I'm not sure. It depends on how quickly or how many staff you have on working on this. At the end of that year, you might need another 3 to 6 months to evaluate your plan. As Mark said in the conclusion, if things went well, note that. Note what went well. And then maybe you make adjustments and try it again. Maybe everything went awesome. Maybe you had 3 goals and you knocked those out of the park. So, hey, now we're going to focus on 3 more goals the following year that we're going to try to accomplish. So this is going to look different for all of you. This is no 2 plans are going to look exactly the same, and that's okay.
Okay, this is Jean. I have a comment and a question. So I'll ask the questions first, and then I have a comment, maybe a question for you. Charlene asks, how would you make a marketing plan work together with the library strategic plan, assuming the library had one of those? And Charlene read my mind, because that's what I was going to ask or comment on. Was I thought that a marketing plan and a library strategic plan could work well together, especially in the gathering of data, where you're gathering data for one, you could also use it for this, or, you know. So thank you, Charlene, for asking that question. That's perfect.
Mark, do you want to tackle that?
Yeah, I think that definitely there is some overlap in terms of some of the material or information that you collect when you're doing a strategic plan. Obviously, you know, one of the things Jamie talked about in when she was showing the sample plan is that it talks about the library's vision and mission and those kinds of things.
Yes.
The strategic plan, I mean, these 2 things are related, but the strategic plan is really an upper level vision about what the library is, what is its goal, what is our role in the community.
Right.
The marketing plan really is getting down to more specific goals. Now, some of those things might have been identified in a strategic planning process.
Right.
Doing community meetings and stuff, maybe yes. One of the things that came up was that, you know, we need to have more meeting room space, or we need to have more programming.
Right.
So that might be a big general goal as part of your marketing plan. Now you start to attack some of those things and make them more specific about how are we going to do this, when are we going to accomplish it, how is it going to be measurable, And so, we hear a lot with, because a lot of times, libraries will ask, well, we're getting ready to do a building project, we want to do a strategic plan, and that's really not the right time to do a strategic plan, because a building project is not about a strategic plan. The library, who the library is and its role in the community,
Right.
should help shape the building project, not the other way around. And so,
Right.
that strategic plan is really something you want to have done. And that's not saying if you don't have a strategic plan or a current one, you can't do a marketing plan. But I think these are all tools that support one another and help provide more vision and more guidance.
Yeah, I think you could think of and that was well said, Mark, you could think of, one of your goals in your strategic plan might be to conduct and follow up with the marketing plan. So think of your marketing plan possibly as a subset of that bigger picture plan. I hope that answers your question. Sure, that's a great question. Great.
Yes, thank you. I think it does. And when you were talking about statistics early on, and given that it's annual report season, the gathering of statistics, you don't have to reinvent the wheel for all of them, but some of them might already be out there for you to use.
Right, and we really want to stress too, and we mentioned this a couple times, like check with your library system, check if they are already tracking your website analytics, see if they have ILS data that they can provide. See what kind of support or statistics or things they might already have, so you aren't necessarily reinventing the wheel. But
yeah, your systems may have been pulling like census data,
yes,
and matching it with your ILS data. They may already be doing some mapping work that you could use.
Right, right. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions come in, and we're just about out of time. So I want to thank all of you for joining us today. We had a great audience, a lot of interest in this. And again, please complete the survey. Feel free to follow up with us on any questions. We have the session coming up at WAPL. I want to thank Jean for moderating questions, and then Kathy for being here today and for supporting this. And if you want to listen again, we are recording today's session, and we will be posting it online, and that link will be in your follow-up email that should go up later today. So with that said, again, thank you for your interest, thank you for listening in, and have a great rest of your day. So long.
Take care. Bye-bye.